Man, okay, so you have lovingly brought. You're actually the second or third person to have brought visual aids along.
Am I?
I think the first was Real DFM, design, fabricate, manufacture. Anna and Brian, husband and wife couple, they do 3D printing. So they brought some of the stuff that they were like 3D printing. But you have brought
Aquiana
Springs Water. So I guess could you introduce who you are and what you do?
My name is Jerry Simoneaux. I am with Aquiana Springs Water. We have a local product. It's bottled right here in Louisiana.
Mm-hmm.
Hence the reason I brought my own prop, because I didn't want another brand sitting in the picture with me.
Yeah, we had brands that shall not be named for this episode.
Correct. People will, I'd be disowned by the owner and all of my employees, and I'd never live it down. So I decided to bring my own prop with me.
That's the way to do it. So what I know you through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program.
Yes.
We connected. You're like a very high energy, ultra passionate guy. You very much like lead with your heart on your sleeve and just like your dedication to what it is that you do. But you also have a really fascinating story. It's super interesting how you got to where you are now from where you were, 15, 20 years ago. And I'd love to kind of explore that and explore just a little bit of what drives you and what keeps you going. Because one thing that surprised me was that the first time I saw what you were doing, I was like, Aquiana Springs. Like, what? A water company? Like, it's easy to forget about something so foundational. But you bring so much passion to it. You have so much excitement.
Well, I think I do that with anything that I'm involved in, right? I did that when I was coaching, and I did that with the previous businesses. I like to just dive into whatever I'm, getting involved in. And I fell in love with water. I thought it was a heck of an opportunity. It's something that is good for us, right? Mm-hmm. It's nature's soft drink. I just like being part of a smaller company like Aquiana Springs, right? And the fact that we're a local company and we're going up against these mega, conglomerates.
Yeah, what does the water landscape life look like?
They've got two primary bottlers in the United States, Nestle and another company whose name I won't mention. Okay, and so but there's a bunch of independents that are out there. I'm part of a water association, and it's other smaller independents like myself, mm-hmm. and we just try to compete with the big boys, right?
So what is it about that? I mean, it's kind of a bifurcated landscape.
Well, I like the fact that we're David going up against Goliath. We've got the right stones to be able to do that, and I don't know. I've always worked for small companies. I've been fortunate to do that. So I haven't been a big part of corporate America, and I like the flexibility that it offers me.
Yeah.
I don't have a big hierarchy. I can make a decision as we need to, spur of the moment, and to react to something that the other guys are doing.
And you're kind of like the career entrepreneur in a lot of ways.
Yes, I've been involved in a couple of things. I don't know how much of my past you want me to go into before I got into the water
you're the
business.
Man of the hour.
Okay, well, I was working for a company that was called Halter Marine. They were the world's largest builder of supply boats in the world, and I worked with. I had the good fortune to work with a man who I adore. His name's Sal Garino. He's 90 years young right now, and I had the opportunity to work with him for a supply company that was owned by Halter. Mm-hmm. And then years after that, we started a little company called Gulf Global, and we sold stainless boat shafting, which is just a piece of stainless steel that connects a prop to an engine. We were very successful with that, and then we got involved with a guy who we didn't necessarily agree with. So we parted ways just after Katrina, and then a friend of mine who I was well acquainted with. We tried to launch a couple of different businesses. He got into the water business.
Yeah.
And then in 2009, 2010, I gave him a call, and they said, Jerry, I don't know why we hadn't called you before now. So they found a spot for me. And then in 2014, they lost their mind and put me at the helm and decided to
put you at the head of the thing.
Yes.
So now you serve as the president of Aquiana Springs.
I am the president. And in my role, as we talked about in Goldman Sachs, my role this year is going to change, where I spent 75% of my time doing administrative type work.
I see.
We brought people on, and we've engineered certain things that's going to free me up to do. I'm going to work on my growth plan for the next 5 years out trying to promote Aquiana Springs.
Excellent. So you've been through so many transitions as somebody who's working in different industries in different parts of the business. And what's really interesting to me is that you've done this while also having a family, and how does that work as being somebody who's doing things that on the outside look so risky, like moving into these different industries, growing these businesses? What's it like balancing that?
Well, looking back now that my boys are grown, I don't know how I found time to do. I always made time for my boys. I coached, when starting at 4 years old. Sometimes your life gets out of balance, right? With work and other. I used to travel quite a bit, but I always made sure that I was home on weekends so that I could participate in all their sports activities and coach like that. There are different times, though. I'll work 60 hours in a week, 65 hours in a week. So while you try to achieve a balance, there's going to be certain periods of your life where you're out of balance, where you're doing too much with the sports or too much with the business, and it's sometimes it's a struggle to try to achieve a balance doing that.
How do you know when you're falling out of line?
On the work side, I'm just exhausted. I'm just, I do expend a lot of energy with what I try to do, and then occasionally, usually catches with me around the holidays. So I take 2 weeks off between Christmas and New Year's and try to rejuvenate and get myself ready for the next year.
And just detach, pull it out.
Yeah, and like I told you, I was binging in both senses of the word. Binging.
You were it was a winter hibernation season. It's forgivable.
Yeah, working on my before picture. So now it's going to make that after picture so much better 6 months from now.
Have you always thought of yourself as an entrepreneur?
Or
can you not see it when you're going through it? Like, what is the...
In reflecting back now, I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, right? And I've always been part of things at the outset. When we started the supply company, we were brand new, and we were going up against, this is when we were the division of Halter Marine. We were going up companies that had been around since the turn of the century, the previous century.
You just love challenges.
Yes.
Going up against the old guard.
Yeah, I've kind of stumbled into that too. It's just I've stumbled into leadership positions because it seems like somebody wasn't willing to take the responsibility. It's kind of fallen into my lap, and I've always kind of realized that after the fact. I don't go into it, seeking that.
Kind of kicking and screaming, you get pulled into it.
Yeah, and then I look back and went, oh heck, what did I do? How did I get into how did I get into this position?
Have you read the book, the Jim Collins book, Good to Great?
No.
There's a super interesting book. It's kind of his summary of having spent all these research hours with his own little team, analyzing what makes organizations successful, what lets them kick up really, really aggressive growth. Excuse me. So he focuses on a particular subset, if I'm remembering it correctly, which were companies that sustained a certain percentage of growth as publicly traded companies over a certain amount of time. So he's looking for really, really special kinds of businesses. And then he dives in and he's trying to figure out what are the nuts and bolts, what's the playbook by which these folks are running that lets them do the thing. And it was really wild because he's pulling all these really counterintuitive discoveries, one of which was this idea that everyone thinks a leader is somebody who takes charge and is at the front and has the huge personality and is the loudest person, most domineering person in the room. And what his research was finding was that it was more often folks who were very humble, very passionate and dedicated to the work with great standards, who were constantly trying to put the mission and other people ahead of themselves and weren't trying to really puff themselves up. But it's funny because hearing you say it makes me think that that's kind of a through line in what you're describing me in terms of your own trajectory.
It's funny though, because when you say that you're trying to assume that position, it almost seems like it's
you're arrogantly
yes, right. I'm not. It's not. It's not by design. It's you asked about a book that I read. I'm an ardent follower of Andy Stanley. He opened a church in North Point, Georgia, where they already had a bunch of churches, and it's been wildly successful. But he does a lot of leadership podcasts. And I try to be, one of the things that I try to be is a servant leader.
Sir, I've heard the term. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my job is as a leader is to make sure that everybody can do their jobs. I'm helping support them do their job, right? It's not about me. I'll take any of the blame, and they deserve all the credit. And again, I point back to Sal Garino. He was a master of that. I was very fortunate to work at his side for a number of years, and he always put his people first. Always. I mean, and he used to do I thought he was trying to trick me occasionally, because there were occasions where it was just the two of us working, right? And he would just say, "Jerry, you want me to do that?" And
he's going to help you out.
Yeah, and he was willing to do it. Here I'm, a couple years younger than him, and but he was willing to do it. So I was very fortunate that I've had some leaders that showed me how to do it. So I just kind of tried to mirror some of the things he's done. He's the best. He recently turned 90, and they asked me to say something about Sal Garino. The two words that describe him are passion and compassion. Because that's what I saw on a daily basis for an extended period of time. So I try to mirror that, because I thought he was the ultimate leader. If I can get close to that, I will have succeeded. So,
What did it feel like working for somebody like that?
Great. In fact, when I got promoted to this position with the company, I made it a point to go see him, and I said, "Sal, look, I owe everything that I've achieved to you, because I've learned at your side." And he goes, I said, "Sal, you make me feel special every day." And he said, "Well, Jerry, but that's because you are." And I said, "See, there you go." It became natural for him. It was reflexive, because that's what he was. And I tried to do that. I failed at that all the time, right? But that's what I'm shooting for. If I can become anything close to Sal, I'll have succeeded.
So it's really, how long does it take you to become the kind of leader that you want to be? Because it sounds like you've had a couple of iterations through different businesses. Now you're working, not a huge team, but you have a good-sized team at Aquiana.
30 of us.
When does it feel like it starts to click?
Well, it feels like I'm constantly trying to learn to get better. That's why, even once I got over 40, I decided to go to Goldman Sachs, so I can become a better leader. I think I'm always going to be a work in progress. I'm always going to be under construction. I've got to have a meeting with our employees this week, because there's certain things I tried to identify and look at over the weekend, or over the past month, I should say, things we have to work on for us to become better. And I struggle sometimes to try to do it without. I try to lead or coach is a better word. I've tried to coach as opposed to boss people.
Sure.
I try to point out why we should be doing things, and I try to do it in a way so I'll question them. Well, how do I want to get their input. I don't know how to, I can deliver water, but I can't do it as well as them. They've been doing They've been doing this for some cases. We got people that have been doing it for 20 years. Who am I to tell them how to do it better, right?
Yeah.
So I ask, but there's certain things I know that they have to do, and it's the little things, because we deliver thousands of bottles of water a day, right? So we're doing something right. But there's just little things that we need to work on. So we're consistent in our service. I want to make sure, we got 10 guys out on the road every day. I want to make sure everyone's being polite and professional. And for the most part, I'm sure we do that. But I just want to make sure. So I want to try to reinforce my feeling on how we should treat our customers, right? They're precious. They don't need us. Water, water's free.
Comes out of the tap.
You can get it out of the tap, if you don't mind taking a risk. I'm kidding. No, so we have a lot of competition. Every C-store, you can get water anywhere. People don't need us. We provide a service.
It's really a lot more than that.
Yeah, we've got a terrific product. I'm really proud of our product. I have nothing to do with the taste, but it tastes great. I know it's good for people. I know they should be hydrating and drinking water all the time.
It's easy.
Our job is to make it convenient for people.
Yeah.
Right. So they have it when they want it.
So it's funny hearing you say that it's something that people don't necessarily need per se. But you know, you go to any office building in America, and there's one of those towers with 5 gallons on top of it.
The office water cooler.
There's always water. It's a thing of legends, and as much as you would assume that something would look different in the 21st century, it still persists, and it's changing. I also know that you're doing something kind of interesting in the world of water, just from the kind of insider math that we've had at our Goldman Sachs experience, in that you do something cool with your labeling that makes you a little bit more. It makes you a little safer to what we just had installed here, which was something directly in the wall, which is a conditioner next to a water fountain. Could you tell us about that? Because I think that's pretty slick.
Talking about the private label part?
Yeah.
I'm happy to tell you about that. I'm glad you asked.
Well, the funny thing is, having come in and thought to myself, it's water. When you started running into all these use cases and how people are utilizing this other part of your business, I thought it was just so neat. It was so witty.
Well, I think, being in the water business, I'm an advocate for drinking water. I do want people to drink water.
Yeah.
I think ours is a premium water, so I want to introduce people to that. And then with our private label water, they can take this premium product we've got and make it their own, right? We can help them create the perfect label that goes on our product to help them promote their business. And I think I said this in my Goldman Sachs speak. One of the things I like about that is we succeed by helping others grow their business.
Yeah, it's that servant leadership.
Right, and that's great, So I can help contribute to growth by helping these little small companies who are trying to make themselves known, create their own brand, and it's a great product that they can put their name on, make it their own, and help promote their business.
So who calls you up and asks for private label water? First off, it sounds very fancy and expensive.
It's not compared. In fact, you can buy private label water for almost as much as some of these other brands that require you to buy it if you want to buy their soft drinks, without mentioning any names. But
that's just going to be the sub theme of the whole webcast, is that the Lord Voldemort of water.
Well, Windsor Court, Hotel Malion, two
Sure.
iconic names, and terrific locales. They've thought enough to put their name on our product. Mm-hmm. That means a lot to me. We have law firms throughout the city, Stone, Pigman, and I don't want to start going down that
just running
path because I'm going to insult somebody. But we're well represented in law offices, restaurants, schools, Jesuit, Holy Cross, Mount Carmel.
Folks who say I need something special. You do something in a more traditional industry, but you do it in kind of an innovative way.
We think so, and we're the only one locally that can provide that product, and that gives us an advantage because there's no shipping costs involved. And then we also warehouse it for them, so we provide an additional service and additional value by keeping the water in our warehouse.
Kind of an AWS type thing where you buy it, store it with us, and when you need it, we'll drop it off.
Correct. So we have a schedule. We've got a staff that does a terrific job of making sure that everybody gets their water when they want it and when they need it.
How do you think about? I know you mentioned health briefly. Having worked with Aquiana and having had to study just, water as a topic, how has that changed the way that you look at just drinks in general, the things that we see on shelves? I'm sure it's kind of shocked you in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I've been more aware of it, and I have to confess, I'm a recent convert to drinking water, relatively speaking, because even though I was, trying to head up a company, I was still drinking soft drinks, and I pulled myself away from that.
Yeah. So
I'm drinking more just water and coffee. I think I have a duty to try to promote
what it is that you
the drinking of the water. It's healthy. It's something that all our kids should be doing.
But do you worry when you see kids wandering around drinking, 20 ounces of Fanta or something like this? Does it hit you in a different kind of way?
No, not really. I mean, I can't control all the drinks that are available out there. I can promote mine. Mm-hmm. I do have feel it's a duty to try to make sure that the schools are getting water, and a lot of them are adopting more healthier choices for the kids.
Sure.
We can be part of that, right?
Sure.
So
to you, it's never about, like, if I understand correctly, your philosophy is more about just promoting something good instead of trying to be counterculture or counter something.
Right. That's more my style. I try to point to examples of people who are doing it. One of the things I don't want to do either is there's a bunch of different waters that are out there, right? And you can add something to the water to make it take on a different taste or a different appearance, and it'll grow hair, and it'll make you better looking. And
is that common? Is that pretty common in your industry? Additives and things like this?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I see it. You can have an alkaline water, right? But on the West Coast, they do it just so they can sell a $5 bottle for $15.
Just to say it's a.
Look, don't get me wrong. There are some people who actually do believe that, but it's a whole lifestyle change. You can't become completely healthy just by drinking water, right? It's part of, it can contribute to.
Yeah. But
I don't want to be a snake oil salesman and tell people that by drinking this alkaline water or this
something
water,
magical is going to happen.
Yeah, no. This is nature's soft drink. This is the best thing.
It is interesting though, because you're sourcing your water from Louisiana too.
Yes.
And the irony is that we live in a city where we routinely can't drink the water. Right. So how do you address that? Like, how do you describe just the quality? Because I remember when we got the bottle of Aquiana Springs and you brought some through to the classes, and I enjoyed it. It's tasty water. But there are all these competing mindsets of, oh, well, if I want good water, I'll just go up to the Northeast where they've got like the right kinds of stones, or the Midwest. And you kind of sat me down and disabused me of that notion, which I thought was pretty neat.
Well, it does depend on the source, right? So even the water that you use, and it's a purified water, but it's starting with the tap water, municipal water, right?
Yeah,
That's
I guess
where
where does water
is.
come from? Like when I'm looking at the shelf, because I don't think a lot of people know, like what you're selling is different. It's artesian. It's not.
There's three basic ones.
Yeah, what does the landscape
You got
look
artesian,
like?
spring, and then you've got municipal water, aka tap water,
okay,
which is purified, right? That's what you see on the grocery shelves. So spring water flows naturally to the surface. It's naturally purified through rock formations below the surface. Then it comes up. I'm oversimplifying that, right? So spring water comes to the surface naturally. Our water is in an aquifer that's located in the heart of Louisiana in Tangipahoa Parish, and so we have to tap into it, the aquifer, this chamber that's below the surface.
You drill a well, basically.
It's an artesian well, hence the reason we call it artesian water.
Is that a term that if I see artesian, it always means that a well has been dug and hit an aquifer? It's always come from directly underground?
I'm pretty sure that's accurate. It's the method that you draw the water.
I see.
Right. So that's why for the artesian, it's an artesian well. So you're going down to the source, and then spring water. We can't call our water spring water, but there's virtually no difference between spring and artesian.
It's whether you've let it come to the surface or not.
Correct.
I see. So you snuck something in there at the beginning, which was that municipal water is the same as the thing on the shelf.
That is tap water. It's
if
purified
I
water. If it says purified, and it has to be labeled properly, right? So we have to say artesian on the label.
Sure.
They have to say purified if it's a municipal source that has been purified, and if it's spring water, then you can say spring on the surface.
So what is a municipal source could still be commercial? So somebody can go to a municipal source and start bottling that and sell it as
the two leading brands worldwide are municipal water. They're purified water. Yeah.
So that's interesting because I don't think a lot of folks really think about that.
So it's more readily available. So in our case, we have to draw it from the source where it's available.
So the shipping is always a factor.
Correct. Right. So in municipal water, you can get it pretty much anywhere.
So that's interesting because you always think with mega brands that, and I think it may just be a mistaken mindset from the consumer's perspective. You think when you get a jug of purified water, you just assume that it came from the mountains that are on the picture that's on the gallon. But what you're saying, it sounds like it could have come from down the road that then pumped it to a bottler next door, and then shipped it right to my Rouses.
Correct. But again, I don't want to imply that purified water is bad.
Well, not to say that it's bad, just to say that it is
Right.
misleading from the consumer's perspective because they've got the pretty mountains on the front of them.
Correct. You're right. No. Well, yes. Yeah. It's all about packaging, right? Again,
Okay.
that's one of the reasons I do. I love our Aquiana product. It is a natural. It's homegrown product. It's available right here. It's farther north, so we're not drawing it from the river, so to speak. So we don't have to worry about those contaminants or anything that's in that water.
That's really fascinating, and it's interesting because it's one thing that I guess you never think about when you're thinking about large water companies is that if you have to ship it somewhere,
very expensive.
Water is not light. I don't know what a gallon of water weighs, but
well, for instance, our a 5-gallon bottle weighs about 45 pounds.
Jeez.
Yeah, at 8 o'clock in the morning. By about 3 o'clock, it weighs 300 pounds. If you just ask our guys who have been delivering it all day, it just gets heavier as it goes.
That's wild.
Teasing, but
no, but seriously, I imagine these guys are.
A pallet of water weighs a ton, literally. A pallet, 72 cases, 24 bottles to the case, weighs 2,000 plus pounds. It's very heavy, so it's very expensive to ship. So that's one of the advantages that we have for our private label customers locally. It's right here, sourced right here, so they don't have to pay costs to bring it in from out of town. That is an advantage. It enables us to keep our costs down for that.
Yeah, because it's really a local product.
Correct.
Do people really, have they been super responsive to receiving a local product? What has the reception been in that case?
In some cases, well, we try to approach people and make them aware that we are a local product, and we don't feel like you should have to pay more because we are local.
Sure.
Right. We want to keep these dollars here and recirculate it within our the New Orleans economy in the local area. So it's usually pretty well received. I don't want to pay lip service to the fact that we're local. I think some people do that. We don't want to be that.
Don't want to overhype it.
No. We make a strong effort to support other local businesses. We're involved with Greater New Orleans Inc. and Stay Local organizations like that. We've talked to the New Orleans Business Alliance, and we're recent members, new members of the New Orleans Chamber of Commerce. So I went to the orientation just last week.
Very good.
Yeah. So
we didn't get an email back from them.
You will. I thought
I followed the thing correctly.
I can put you in touch with the people.
And just to clarify, if you're listening, we finished the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, and everybody received a year at the New Orleans Parish Chamber of Commerce, basically.
Yes, and so we're going to do a private label water for the New Orleans Chamber, so to help them promote their organization.
Oh, no kidding.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Well, we try. I guess that my high energy comes from the fact that I am excited about what we do, and I want to help other people succeed as well. So I'm a chamber member, but I want to help the chamber do their job better. So I'm helping them promote their organization.
It's really that servant leadership.
I hope so. At some point, you're going to need your own Gigsy water. So
every time we get into the headshot studio,
that's it.
We'll be sitting there, and people will be sweating in the studio, and we'll be giving them the Gigsy private label.
That's right.
I see the day. I see the vision, Jerry.
Well, you're going to be a little bit bigger. You're going to have a staff of 50 to 100.
Yeah, well, give us a minute. Trying to figure out all the taxes and the additional nonsense with payroll is. I don't know how. It's funny because as we grow the company, I always think to myself, all the time I have the thought. The first thought is, you only have to do this once. So you only have to learn the really hard thing once if it's like the new step that you enter into. So I remember a couple of years ago when we were so nervous to set up like a payroll system because it's just so alien and there's nobody that can help you when you don't have the money to hire somebody just to set the dang thing up for you. And so you're kind of fumbling around in the dark and you're like, this is awful and this is so stressful. And you finally get the thing done and at the end of it you go, well, I only had to learn it once. Have you felt that as you've grown companies? Because the thing I've noticed, at least personally with Oli and I and the conversations that we have as we grow the business, it's like you get a little bit better at it, but there's still there's always something on your plate that's kind of that pressure of, can we sustain this? Oh my goodness, I have to figure this thing out. But you only have to figure it out once. But there's always something. There's always something new. And I'm sure you experience that in your business as you grow it. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah. Well, go from past experience. I had to learn about when I was in the supply business. We had 26,000 line items that I had to be somewhat familiar with each one. So when somebody called, I could speak somewhat intelligently about it. Then I moved into stainless.
26,000 line items.
Yeah, well, that's a wholesale distributor. It was Standard Supply and Hardware and Woodward White, which is now apartment complexes. But you'd have valves and fittings and tools and nuts and bolts and rope, soap, and dope type items, right?
Just everything.
Yeah, so it's you can get crazy calls for just about anything, and then you get into exporting. But that was in that business. So I had to learn all these different items, and then I thought getting something more specialized. I got into stainless boat shafting.
Sure.
So then you have to learn all the different chemistries that make up the different grades depending on the application. Right, and that was
so
pretty
even though
complex.
you simplified, it was still very complicated.
It is, but then it narrowed down to 3 primary grades. You had to be able to speak intelligently about it to a point, but everybody that we were dealing with pretty much knew all this.
Sure.
Right. So then you go into something like water, and I just wanted to be prepared to be able to answer questions about water, but it's pretty simple. Water's healthy for you. There's you have to know whether it's municipal water, artesian water, spring water. There's not that much to it. I do like the fact that my source is less than 2 hours away.
Yeah.
I have a ready supply of this available to me pretty much any time. When I was in stainless boat shafting, a lead time for an order was 26 months. If
26
we were lucky,
months.
in some cases.
That's outrageous.
Well, because it was a special. Some of them were less than a year, right? But we could, with that, they would start the chemistry. They would start making this particular grade of stainless. And after they test the batch, sometimes it would fail. 12 weeks in, they would fail, and they have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
That got to be a challenge.
It's like trying to close on a house for 26 months. You're just kind of hanging in limbo. And you're not in control of anything. And
as luck would have it, Murphy's Law, if you had a yacht that was waiting for these 2 very long pieces of stainless to come out, they don't have, they got a deadline, and they get, it got complicated. I like the fact that now I just say, hey, look, I need a truckload of water, and it's here with, the next day or 24 hours.
What do you think are the biggest skills you've acquired through these various growth roles, entrepreneurial roles, leadership roles? Like, what's the throughput? What are the certain skills that if I drop you in the desert and you have to do something new, that you can pick it up immediately and get to it?
The one thing that's consistent in anything that we do is people, right? Mm-hmm. In relationships. So I've made it a point. Again, I've been very blessed to be around some phenomenal people. So I've developed skills on how to communicate better. And still have a long ways to go. That's been consistent throughout, and I'm still working on it. But I've gotten better. I'm more relaxed. I remember when I was first in sales and I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I would worry about going on a sales calls. I didn't know. I had no life experiences. What the heck what would I talk about? Now I have to try to limit myself. I got too many real experiences, and that's why I talk about going off the rails. Now I struggle with trying to shut up and listen a little better. So I have to work at that. So I have to learn when to listen, and I try to ask leading questions so I can conduct an
folks
interview.
They're giving it back to you. And
right. Look, this is one thing that's consistent too. If I'm in any type of service business, I have to find out how I can help you. So I have to see what is an issue for you? What's the pain point for you? What are you looking for? How can I help you? Yeah. So in asking leading questions and trying to discover what's the problem, then I can offer a solution to the problem. And that's been consistent.
That's really funny because it's when I was learning at the beginning of starting the company, just learning how to sell, it felt so uncomfortable to do this sort of, hey, do you want this? Like, what do? I stand on the street and I hand out flyers. I rent a plane and they just pull a banner from the sky. Like, you just don't know. Like, you think you're so bright, and then you're kind of sitting there like, what do I do with my hands? And then learning how to approach sales, I think, from the perspective you talk about, has really become the core philosophy of what we really do at the company, because it's a lot of someone's going to reach out to you, or you're going to reach out to them, and your job isn't to try to shove something down their throat. Your job is to educate them in the ecosystem of possibilities from which they can solve their problems. And if you do it right, then, and assuming that you have a good product, they see amongst the ecosystem of possibilities that what you have to offer them is a great deal. So the stuff sells itself. And the thought, at least in our business development, has always been, what is it that people need? Nobody really needs photo or video. You don't really need that. What do you need? You need somebody that can help you tell your story. You need somebody who can help you share these little moments, right? These special little things that you should be involved with. You shouldn't have your camera out bugging everybody. It's why you get a wedding photographer and don't make your brother or sister do it, because they're supposed to be there. You're supposed to be present. And
but that's what I love about Gigsy, because the best way to tell a story is to tell a story, and you don't have to write it out. And nowadays we've got a very short attention span.
Yeah.
Right? People are going to take the time to read something if they can watch a video.
Yeah.
Right. So I think you're in the absolute perfect business. Video storytelling, I think, is the way people are going to are going to conduct business going forward. Right. You mentioned people don't know what they need in some cases.
Yeah.
Right? You got to help bring it to their attention. One of the things that I've learned fairly recently. I've been in sales my entire life, and it wasn't until like in the last 5 years I took the pressure off myself, because I was trying to get people to do something so I would benefit. When I removed that, and I tried to find a way that I could help people, it took the pressure off of me. And I used to put pressure on myself in that if I didn't get a sale, I felt like I lost something.
Because your ego was tied up in it. All your self-esteem, your bonus check, all the other stuff.
I had a real life situation that taught me this. It was, and it's the only way. It's the best way to learn something, right? I went in. It was a company it's a very large company, so I'm not going to mention their name. I'm just going to mention the circumstances. We had been trying to get their business for a number of years. They were very polite. They allowed us to bid on it, and then they would just come back and say, "Nope, we're going to stick with what we've got." I did this 3 years in a row.
3 years in a row.
Right. And then,
so what is that? Before you go on to the rest of it, that's, to me, one of the most critical things, because I can tell you from personal experience, there's somebody in our office who I hired simply because they came the first time, we didn't have the position, they weren't the right fit, they left, and they kept coming back. And I think 95% of people don't.
Persistence is...
99% of people don't do that.
Right. They don't follow up, and they don't follow through. And it's persistence. Remind me, I got to tell you a story about my friend who got hired by my mentor for that very reason. But they called me after the most recent time that we had submitted pricing for them. I got an email from them saying, "Hey, can we do? Would you be interested in bidding on our half-liter water?" I said, "Absolutely. Can I come by tomorrow?" So I get there, and at this point, because I've gone through this process a couple of times, I had nothing to lose. So I walked in like that. I said, "Why am I here?" He goes, "Well, we've decided that we wanted to start supporting local businesses. Do you qualify?" I said, "Well, I qualify more so than the people you're doing business with. So yes, we are a local business." He goes, "Well, we're going to allocate so much to do this." And so I asked him, I said, "Well, what do you want to pay?" I never asked that question before. And so I said,
"But you were just throwing a Hail Mary."
Well, plus, if he had come in with a ridiculous price, I was prepared to just walk away without anything. And then he said, "Well, right now we're paying this." And I just really went, "Wait a minute, I quoted lower than that. How is that happening?" But anyway.
That's true, though.
So he said, somebody just came in with this ridiculously low price, so I've thrown that out.
Yeah.
I said, "So where do I need to be? Give me a range." He says, "Well, if you can be between this and this, we can do business." I said, "Okay, I can do this." I hit right in the center, and he started buying truckloads of water from us. And it dawned on me, I got all this business because I had nothing to lose. I was prepared to walk away, and I should, if I don't have anything to offer you that's going to benefit you, I should be prepared to walk away. You should be prepared to walk away.
Yeah.
Right. So it took the pressure off, and it changed my thinking. And then I met a gentleman, his name's Leonce Collins. He is phenomenal. He's 80 years young. He represents Mountain Valley Spring Water. It's based out of Arkansas.
Okay.
He works for them 2 days a week. The other 4 days a week that he works, 6 days a week, he does walking tours of the French Quarter and up the Garden District.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and so he helped me develop this confidence, because he goes in, he would come into your office and say, Rob, let's see if you qualify to become one of our customers. Think about that dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? So it has to do with confidence, knowing that you're doing the right thing. I've got a great product. I want people to be able to enjoy it. So it takes
Are you
the
a
pressure
good
off.
fit for us to work together? This is really interesting to me because you always hear people talk about, one thing that's been a personal pet peeve of mine personally, is hearing folks talk about doing business as a pejorative, as this negative, extractive, this very sort of like almost Marxist environment where someone's just sitting there and abusing the workers, and everyone suffers, and then the boss just sits there and laughs and throws their head back, and it's like the hyena scene from Lion King, right? Like, horrifying. And one thing that has always made me, I think, really, really sensitive and kind of ticked off, to be honest, about that was because, to me, what the joy of starting and growing a company was all about was in being able to find the right kind of people and create an environment that was so generative and so productive and so wonderful to go to spend time with cool people, and then to work in this team environment. But it's all about fit. I can't convince you to come and work for me if I'm a butthead, if I abuse you, if I disrespect you, or if I can, not for a while. You're going to find out really quickly, and then you're going to be off in the streets telling everybody about these jerks who don't know how to treat people. And it's the same thing with clients. I can't go and I can never put somebody at the barrel of a gun and say, I want you to buy these videos. It has to happen because they see the value and because they feel that they're willing to trust us with their dollars. So it's all about trust.
Absolutely.
It's interesting to hear you talk about it in that way, because I think I just personally feel it so deeply, having had the brief experiences that I've had in business.
I worked for a guy who was a jerk years ago. I swore I never wanted to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I swore I'd never work for anybody like that again. Especially when I had a Sal Garino that he did it right. I mean, people loved him. People loved going to work. People would walk through walls for him because he cared about them, and it showed. And that's how I want to be. I can honestly say there's not anything in the company that I have not done. I've cleaned toilets. I work in a warehouse. I'll get on the truck. I'm not good at it. I shouldn't be on the truck, because I'm small and I'm weak. But I'm willing to do it. But Sal taught me that. Sal, I learned that. I mean, again, I've been very fortunate to be blessed to be with some terrific people. So why would I want to be a jerk? Who wants to work for a joke? And if you're there, people are going to be miserable, right? Mm-hmm. I remember there was a job I had, that job, working for the jerk. I'd have knots in my stomach on Sunday night. A couple of years ago, I was having this terrific meeting. I thought we were going to have a rah-rah meeting. We had great news to share. And we had one of our guys lose his mind because he was not listening to me. I was talking about something, and I just asked him to leave the meeting. I wasn't firing him. I just, Jimmy, do me a favor. Will you please just walk
Step
out.
outside for 2 minutes.
Yeah, and he lost his mind, and he it ended badly. But anyway, I continued with the meeting, and I told people, I said, look, I want people that want to be here. If you're having that trouble on Sunday night, you're getting a knot in your stomach, man, please find something else. We'll help you. I'm not telling you to quit right now. And we had another guy who 2 weeks later, he left. But that's good, because
Sure.
He did, it wasn't that he hated it.
It just may not be a good fit.
Right, that's it. And he's happy now, and I'm happy for him, right? We've had to operate lean sometimes, so I haven't been able to be as forthright about that, and telling people to leave if they're not happy. But if that happens,
it is a balance. It is a balance.
Yeah, because if people are happy, they're going to produce better.
Yes,
they can do better work
if they feel supported, if they feel that they're in the right place, and the people who are helping manage them are treating them in the right kind of way.
And it's my job to make sure that they know they're appreciated.
Yeah.
It comes across through the phone. If somebody's happy, it comes across through the phone. If somebody's
How do you
having a
show
bad
that? How do you show that as a servant leader?
I try to make it a point to know a little bit and interact with people. I'm pretty much a goofball. I know I am, but I'm a bit of a chameleon. So I will speak to people on their level, and I'll find out a little bit about something. So I know I'll greet some lady. We do exploding fist bumps. Other guys, they would think I was nuts, and that wouldn't happen, right? So I approach people the way I think they want to be approached, right? So it makes them more comfortable. I try to find out a little bit about each person.
Find out what's special about them, just like your mentor would say.
Yeah, we had a guy who used to deliver water to us, right? He used to haul water, but he worked for another company, right? And nobody wanted to have anything to do with him. He was this old, grumpy guy, right? And I said, you know what? I got to get through to this guy.
It's almost like a strange magnetism when the person walks in the room. It's kind of a repellent.
Yeah. So I decided that I was going to overcome this, and so I started talking to him and found out horses. We got on the subject of horses. I said, really, what do you do with horses? He goes, oh. He started talking about it. He trained champion horses. And from that moment on, he and I were best buds. He would bring me pictures of the horses and that, right?
Yeah.
But then he warmed up to everybody else, too.
So it's contagious.
Yeah.
He just had to know one person in this random office along his route actually gave a damn about him.
I showed a little interest. It didn't, it wasn't a big effort on my part. I just tried to find a common interest. I found out something that excited him, and he literally would bring me pictures and his photo albums.
You were learning then. You were learning all about the horses.
Yeah, but that taught me a lesson too. Suppose I had never taken the effort, everybody would have been in fear of him, and we would have missed out on what a great guy he was. He could be,
Yeah, so, that's true.
It was.
You're such the eternal optimist, Jerry.
Well, I've grown up in New Orleans. I've been a Saints fan, right? Look, yesterday it was 14-0, and I was like, "Hey, last year we were down 17-0 in Minnesota. We're going to be fine." And sure enough, I didn't worry too much.
Yeah, what do you attribute that to? Was it your childhood? Was it the city? Was it the Saints?
It was my parents.
Yeah.
I lost my mom 20-something years ago, but she was a first grade teacher, and she was phenomenal. I've been very blessed. My dad was very generous. He was always helping people.
Yeah.
Always, And even after when my mom passed away 20-something years ago, he didn't know what to do with himself, so he started cutting his neighbor's grass. He didn't charge him anything. He would just do something. He would, So I have to point to my parents. They taught me how to be optimistic and to be servants, if you will. My dad, he was a little. He wasn't as optimistic with the Saints yesterday as I was.
No,
not in the first quarter anyway. But yeah, I've been truly blessed, starting out, I won the lottery with my parents, and I don't know, I've always been optimistic. I'm pretty competitive too.
Sure.
I never want to quit, as a kid, I didn't want to quit. If we were losing, we can eat later. I want to keep playing, I want to keep playing until we come back and we take the lead. And I always felt like we could.
Yeah.
And again, I think I'm very fortunate that I've been surrounded with some really terrific people, and I've tried to learn from them. And I guess I developed an instinct early on. I didn't want to be around negative people. I don't suffer them very well at all.
Yeah.
I want to distance myself. If I can overcome something, I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt, right? And I'll take it to the nth degree. But at some point, I'm moving on.
Yeah. You really are what you surround yourself with.
Yes, I've read that a number of times, but it's proven true. It's just true. Like you described the boss who was a jerk. What a miserable existence that is to be like that,
Oof.
Right? Or to have to put up with that every day. I would never want to be that guy. I don't want to be around that guy either.
You definitely are not.
Well, Thanks. Well, I can be.
Everything in measure. What is it? What is the Oscar Wilde quote that he supports everything in moderation, even moderation?
Okay.
I think that's the important.
I like that.
Man, but we've already run 50 minutes.
Have we really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told you it was gonna go fast.
I told you I can run my mouth.
What do you?
Have I said anything worthwhile? I mean, I don't know.
What do you want to send us home on? It's been such a pleasure to have you. I feel like it's great to learn your story and to hear a little bit about just the philosophy that you bring to it, because you think so much about it. I think that's what's interesting, is that you've clearly done the work on and are doing the work on who you are as a leader, which I think is really the core. We talk about the strategy and the external facing side of things. It's cool to hear you talk about what's inside.
Thanks. I do try, now that you're helping me reflect on this, I work at it.
Yeah.
I do. I still have a long ways to go. There's a lot of room for improvement. So what do I want to leave people with? Well, hopefully they'll want to get bottled
They'll
water
enjoy
from
the.
me. They want to enjoy Aquiana Springs. It's a premium water. But more than that, if people here in the city of New Orleans are listening or watching, I love this city. I do. I can't imagine living anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
It's just special. It's got a character that's unique. And they've got some terrific cities in this country: New York, San Francisco, Chicago, Boston. I can't imagine living anywhere else. I like visiting the other places. This is a unique city. I love it, and I want to help be part of its growth. We had a rebirth a number of years ago. We have room for improvement, just like I do, and so I encourage people that live in this area to help work to make this place better.
Be the helper.
Be the helper.
Jerry.
Rob.
You're the man. Thank you so much for coming
You're the
through.
man, dude. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
All right. Woo.